And the Washington witch hunt against the 45th President of the United States has notched up another gear as Donald Trump announced today that he has been given a very short 4 days to report to a grand jury, which he says almost always means an arrest and indictment. The US Department of Justice is targeting Trump over his alleged involvement in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, adding to separate legal investigations already launched against the Donald in both New York and Georgia. So, Megyn, will the Washington witch hunt against Donald Trump only end when he's been successfully driven out of politics?
Yes, I think that's a fair statement, or when he's been driven right into a jail cell. I mean, one of the things that's extraordinary about this potential Washington, D.C. indictment is that the defendants that they've been going after so far in connection with January 6th, they almost never get bail. As soon as they get arrested and indicted, they are locked up, and they remain locked up. Now, I can't imagine that Jack Smith would try that with the former president of the United States. But those who've been watching these cases closely say, don't bet that he will not. If they treat him anywhere near the way they've treated the others who have been indicted around January 6th, that's exactly what will happen to him. I mean, this is indictment number 3 for those of you playing at home, 3 of potentially 4. And there's no indication that Fannie Willis down in Atlanta, Georgia, is taking her foot off the gasoline at all. So we really genuinely could end up with 4 indictments against Joe Biden's chief political rival by the end of the summer. Now, politically, this helps Donald Trump, or at least it has so far. He was 15 points away from Ron DeSantis right before the first indictment came down in March. Now he's 30 points ahead of Ron DeSantis, according to most polls. So it's only helped him in his surge to become the GOP nominee. However, legally, he's in a lot of trouble, Dan. Legally, he's in some jeopardy here, and he actually could be convicted. I'll just give you my quick rundown of the 3 cases that, have been brought or are just about to be, according to Trump's post today. In New York, it's a very weak case, but it's going to be tried in front of a jury that likely hates him. In Florida, the documents case, it's a very strong case legally. It's unfair politically, but it's a very strong case legally, but it's likely to be charged in front of a jury that actually likes Donald Trump. So you take your pick. Which one would you prefer? I think I guess I'd rather have a jury that likes me, but that case in Florida could put him in jail for the rest of his life. So it's scary no matter what. And now you got this case on January 6th, which we haven't yet seen. So I hesitate to opine on the strength legally. If they're going to go after him for what he said the day of January 6th, it's going to fall apart because he has a First Amendment right to say what he said that day. And it was not legal incitement, as that term is used. Our First Amendment is too broad to criminalize what he said. But there's all sorts of other things that they look to be criminalizing in connection with his behavior, suggesting that he really tried to interfere with a congressional proceeding and otherwise, where it could get hairy. And if that's the case, Dan, that case gets tried in the worst possible jurisdiction for Donald Trump there is, and that is Washington, D.C., where it is going to be near impossible to find a jury that will treat him fairly. Other defendants tried in connection with Jan 6th in Washington have tried to move their trials. They have lost every single time. They've all been convicted. And so this one is genuinely scary for him from a legal perspective.
Now, the man intending to run against the Republicans and potentially Donald Trump in next year's presidential election, perhaps best known for his comedy tumbles and apparently inability to remember quite where he is, what he's meant to be doing, despite being the supposed leader of the free world. Megyn, you're no fan of Sleepy Biden, are you? But what are you hearing? Because can he really run again? Or is there a plan in place? Is Governor Newsom going to be swept in at the last minute?
Well, there was a report this week from CNN that inside Democrats will tell you it's not going to be Joe Biden. Don't get too attached. And that only a few people who have been hired to work on his reelection campaign will dispute that, but that the Democrats are saying to their top candidates like Gavin Newsom, be ready, because they don't believe that Joe Biden will actually see this through and actually run as the nominee. So I don't know whether that's true. You look at him, you don't think he can possibly do it. You really don't. I mean, he's losing his mental faculties, his physical capabilities, and he's not even liked by his own party, most of whom would pray and every night on their knees for an alternate nomination, an alternate nominee, if they thought they could get him, get past the Democratic National Party. So I don't know. I wouldn't put strong money on it necessarily being Joe Biden, just given that his party doesn't want him. Though right now, there's stalking horses. There's no one else meaningfully challenging him. What's more interesting to me is as we get to know him a little bit better and as he now has to run in the public eye and not from a basement during COVID, the stories are starting to come out, Dan, about what an absolute jerk this guy is and has been. They've been out for a long time, but even the mainstream press is starting to run them now about how he bullies his staff. He screams at them. He drops the F-bomb toward them, at them, when yelling at them for being so incompetent. He tries to make them feel like chumps all around them. He won't acknowledge his 7th granddaughter, the daughter of his son, Hunter. He touts the fact that he has 6 grandchildren, 666. He goes to extra measures to say it publicly, knowing that it's going to inflict pain on the family that has his 7th granddaughter, who knows that her grandfather is the president of the United States and that he won't acknowledge her, never mind her own father, Hunter Biden. The stories start to get recirculated about how he's been abusive to voters his entire life who dare raise things with him, like the fact that he plagiarized somebody else's paper. He attacked the man as dumb and not as equal to him in IQ, and then proceeded to list a bunch of other lies about how he graduated in the top of his class and he had a scholarship when he went to school. And I could go down the list, but lie after lie, which is what he did to get this role. I mean, now listen, I know a lot of politicians do it, but in his case, it doesn't match the avuncular image that the press has tried to spin. And as we get to know him better, thanks to these congressional House Republicans in particular, the mask is really coming off.
Now, the US soccer star and woke warrior Megyn Rapinoe, we know her, don't we, Megyn? She made headlines recently when she announced she would welcome transgender athletes into women's sport, despite their inherent biological advantage over genuinely female rivals. Now, Megyn, do you think Rapinoe's virtue signalling stance risks ruining sport for women?
Yeah, it does. And she's against at least the public here on this. The overwhelming majority of Americans, I mean, the latest poll I saw put it at 92%. Recently had been in the high 60s. So I would like to see another poll mirroring the numbers, showed that it was up to 92% of Americans who are against biological boys competing against girls or men competing against women in women's sports, period. So she is way outside the mainstream on this. And she is absolutely despicable to take this position after she has left the team. She no longer has to do it. She doesn't have a daughter, but I do. She wants my daughter to compete against male athletes. And you know what? It's not safe. And I won't let Miss Blue, purple hair, whatever she is of the day, dictate my own daughter's safety, wellness, or fairness on the sporting field. In particular, after Megyn Rapinoe has made her millions, she can sit back and cash her checks till the cows come home. She's not going to have to take the physical risks. My kid is. Your kid is. And so I have a strong objection to her weighing in on this at all. And if she's going to weigh in against the side of girls' safety, she can take a seat.
Yeah, all well and good, isn't it, to say it at the top? And I think it's particularly selfish when it comes to team sports, Megyn, as well, because there's an idea that, oh, it's OK, there's a few of us, it doesn't make a difference. And actually, that's completely not true, because do you remember when her own football team, the women's team, played a team of under 15 boys, and in Dallas, I think it was Dallas FC, and yeah, they were totally crushed. Totally crushed.
They got crushed. And if she's so in favor of women playing against men, why didn't she ever try out for the men's team? Huh? If it's all the same, you know, the athletic abilities are the same and the safety's the same.
Yeah, exactly. Why even have gendered sports? Well, exactly. Why have gendered sports, right? If what she's saying is true.
Why not? Why aren't we seeing a bunch of women in the NBA or the NFL? What is it, Megyn? Could there be an inherent unfairness that you refuse to acknowledge now that, again, you have made all the millions, you are out, you are safe? It's more important to you to virtue signal and be loved by your far left constituents than to get real about what's safe and fair for today's girls.
Yeah, no, indeed. But this is a big battle, isn't it, Megyn? Because you've got the woke folk in sport who do not give a damn. That is the problem. And at the moment, they're winning a lot of hearts and minds. So I think, actually, sport all around the world, all of these organisations around the world, they have to come together and fight this. But you are
very... out of our sports. I want them out of our locker rooms. I want them out of our bathrooms. I support transgender people in terms of their mental health issues and the pain that they must be going through, period. That's it. I don't have to make them feel better in my spaces.
OK, Megyn Kelly, host of The Megyn Kelly Show. She's the Megyn that we love in America. You've got to find her on YouTube.